What's a way to explain that to people?
It's hard to explain, and here's what I always say, and it may or may not resonate with you, and it may or may not resonate with your audience, but I regard there being two types of sins in this world. By sin, I mean something we've done wrong. We have sins of commission, when we did something we should not have, and we have sins of omission, when we fail to do something we should have done. And when you take a risk, what you're doing is there's a real chance you're going to commit a sin of commission, right? I'm going to try something, it's going to fail, and I'm going to have egg on my face in one form or another, physically hurt, emotionally hurt, whatever. But what's so interesting is if you go back later in life and you ask people about their regrets, unless the sin of commission was awful and they accidentally killed somebody, or some of those really rare examples, they're never on their big list of regrets. They may wish that didn't happen, but it's not a big deal. The sins the regrets that the big ones that people have are always the omissions. I should have taken that opportunity. I should have taken that chance. I should have asked that person out. I should have gone to that new city. Because you know what? From that, a million things might have happened. There's infinite possibility. Whereas I know that if I commit the sin of commission, I take the big risk and fail and there's egg on my face. So there I was in my 9th grade band and we sucked and we got booed off the stage. Well, you know, now that's a funny story. It's not a horrible thing. Yeah, it's not a horrible thing anymore. Whereas if I never went in front of that group, I was a drummer actually, if I never gave it a try, maybe I'd be thinking, God, I could have been Pete Moon, you know, I could have been somebody, or Keith Moon, sorry, Pete Townsend, they got blended, but I could have been a real drummer, and I don't know that in fact I'm terrible. And it took a couple booings off the stage to convince me this isn't going to be where my bread is buttered.
Okay, and this is something Jeff Bezos talks about. He calls it his regret minimization hypothesis. And he used to be at a company called D.E. Shaw in New York City. My brother actually interviewed there back in the day in the 90s. And he was like a quant trader. And then he saw the internet happened and he said, okay, books is where missions that I regret, not the commissions.
That's exactly right.
And he, because he's such a logical guy, engineer probably, reverse engineered it out and said, oh, this is the obvious decision. But most of us see the commission pain is more of an immediate pain.
That's exactly right. It's super duper strong immediately, but we don't remember that it fades over time.
Massively. And it turns into an asset because it's a funny story.
It becomes a fun, unless it went really bad, which they hardly ever do.
And even that more time, it can be funny.
Yeah, exactly, at least for other people. And so the thing is that, you know, comedy is tragedy plus time, right? And so the thing is that it's super hard to keep that in mind, but it's super important. And I try really hard to say, all right, is this a sensible risk for me? Because you can't take all of them, right? Bill's not going to go up on karaoke night. Trust me, that's just painful for everybody. I know that. But there's some risks that make more sense than others. And there's some times in my life, you know, Jeff Bezos, when he's a young guy and it doesn't have any assets anyway, why not risk it all on a new opportunity? But when he's got kids to pay for college and all that, it's sensible to be a little less risk-taking. So you got to be wise about when you do it. But particularly when you're young and starting out, or particularly when there's an opportunity that looks like it might be a unique one, then you have to ask yourself, all right, what's the worst-case scenario if I take it, and what's the worst-case scenario if I don't? And if you think about it in the long term, you're absolutely right. You're going to weigh them.
And also try to do an unemotional risk assessment. So again, like I tell people to take risks, I tell people don't jump in front of buses, but so often we look at the risk and think it's a life or death situation. But if we're honest with ourselves, it's not. It's a short-term potential humiliation situation, but it's really mostly in your brain. 14 of your Facebook friends might dislike something, but otherwise, it's not as big as you think.
No, that's exactly right. And even the really big ones, like even if you stuff it up big time in front of a big audience, it dissipates. It matters to you a lot more than it matters to everybody else. So I go up there, it happens. I give a terrible lecture. I make a fool out of myself. That sticks with me for a long time. And in a way, that's good because we need negative emotions so we can learn from our mistakes and we prepare better next time. But it doesn't stick with my audience. You tell me about the 10 most boring lectures you ever attended. You can't retrieve them from memory because you just forget about them once they're over. What you